I'm going to be using this 10 by 10 chalkboard that I made. We bought this board, a 2x4 board at Lowe's hardware store, and then my husband cut it in 10 by 10 squares for me to make different kinds of signs for it. I'm going to be using the In All Things Give Thanks transfer and the pumpkin overlays from the Fresh Pumpkins transfers. Then I'm going to be using the white chalk paste and the copper couture ink, which I think is really, 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 really yummy. I love it. Okay, so first of all, what we're going to do is take the pumpkin portion of the transfer, the bottom portion. And I probably don't really need to do this, but I want to show you how to do it anyway, because I've used this one several times. It's the first thing you do, and especially on a board that you've made yourself that is not Chalk Couture, you want to use some furniture paste wax, and I use the Minwax paste wax to wax your board just to make sure your transfer comes off easily and doesn't stick to your, makes it difficult for you to take it off. You know, I don't get this. Let's try it again. So I'm going to put this portion of it right down here on close to the bottom so that I can do my give thanks up there. I'm going to try to get this centered for you. And then you want to smooth it on. You don't have to smooth it on real hard. I just get around the edges really well to make sure that they're sealed so you don't have any bleeding through. And you don't want any bubbles in the screen portion. And this is the screen portion of the transfer. So then I'm going to use some white chalk paste. Put on here. Very simply done. Just put it on. Squeegee it across. Takes very little time. Very little effort. This is, my granddaughter was here the other day and she was doing it for the first time and she was really working it in. You do not have to do that. Just a real easy, nice little time across, just squeegee across the board. Then you want to squeegee it off. Put your excess back into your cup, your jar, and save this for another project. And this is what I love about this, is because it's no waste. You can keep every little ounce. Now I forgot to mention that when you first open your chalk paste up, you want to stir it up real good and make sure it's about the consistency of sour cream on the chalk paste. If it's not, just take a little squirt bottle, a little spritz bottle, and just spritz it a little bit and then stir it up some more. I need to get this transfer off because the paste will dry fairly quickly. Just pull it up from a corner and then go pull from side to side or top to bottom so that you don't stretch your transfer, because if you go from corner to corner, it stretches the screen portion of it because it is fabric. I'm going to use a little dryer here, heat gun, to dry this white so that I can overlay it next. Just bear with me for a few. And as you can see, it takes very little to dry it. Actually, this dries very quickly and you really don't need to use the heat gun, except that I do want to do this overlay on this live, and in order for you to see it, I need it to dry almost instantly. Let me make sure we're still in the screen. Sometimes my phone moves on me and I want to make sure you can see everything. Okay, so the next part I'm going to do is I'm going to use the transfer Give Thanks. And basically all I want to do is use the Give Thanks part of it. I have done this with In All Things Give Thanks, but I think I just want to do the Give Thanks part of it now. So I'm going to try to position this so it's centered. And I want to put a ribbon across the top, so I might just lower this just a little bit more. Okay. Now all I'm going to do is make sure it's down over the words here. So that's all I'm going to use is the give thanks part. So this is the Couture ink. It's shimmery copper, really pretty. I love the color of it. And I'm just going to put it on here and go over these letters here for the give thanks. And like I said, it takes very little to do this. The ink takes longer to dry and will be tacky for a while. You can either use the dryer on it and dry it, or you can just let it air dry. Basically, I just let it air dry because when I get done here, this is all I'm going to be doing to this board is these this ink portion of it. So squeegee off the excess again. All right, let's see how that looks. Now you're just going to pull it up slowly. And if you see a spot that you didn't get, you can just lay it down and go over it again. And there you have give thanks. And I have a little spot right there that I went off of it with. All right, so now you got the give thanks done. So the next part I'm going to do is do the overlay on the pumpkin. And I'm going to show you a little trick. For this, I'm going to take just a little bit of the wax just to make sure that my transfer doesn't stick real tight to this pumpkin, because it can stick to the chalk, and I haven't had, well, I did have the problem the other day, I remember now, but it will pull the chalk up if you're not careful. So I'm just going to put a little bit of wax on it just to make it so that it won't stick to the pumpkin itself. Then I'm going to take the dryer and go ahead and dry to give thanks so that my transfer doesn't stick to it. Tacky, so I'm going to keep drying it for a few minutes. Okay, now that I'm going to go ahead and fuzz this again. This has been fuzzed several times because I used it several times now. I'm just going to lay it on the towel, smooth it down, pick it up. You can do this 2 or 3 times. If it's a newer transfer, you might want to do it at least a couple times. Now then, we're going to position it over the top of this here transfer. Make sure that it lines up. And I think we got it right there. All right. Just go around the edges of it lightly so that you don't, it doesn't need to be real tight on here. And if you do put it down too tight, it might pull your chalk up. So you want to be kind of careful with that. All right. Now that that's done, I'm going to take some copper. It does look kind of goldish, doesn't it? Go over the pumpkin with the squeegee and the ink. And this goes on very easy, just smooth, just glides right on. Don't need to push it in or scrape it or anything, you just glide right over it. All right, then we're going to take off the excess. Put it back in the jar. This save it for another project that we'll do because I love this color now that I've discovered it. Then we're going to pull it up slowly, and voila, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? I just fell in love with it when I saw it the other day when I did it. It was like, oh wow. It is a wow effect, isn't it? So now then I'm going to put a ribbon up here. I picked out a couple that I thought might look good on this, and I'll put a bow up here, and then it'll be finished. When I get it put on there, I want it to completely dry first before I start messing with it.